We hear in this gospel today of the Canaanite woman coming to Jesus asking for help. And it's important to note that she is a Canaanite because it means that she is not a Jew. She's not a part of the Jewish people, the covenanted people of God. And it's important for understand of what's going on in this gospel today. Because sometimes we can read this story and it can seem like Jesus is being unkind, unempathetic, not compassionate towards the woman. It seems like maybe he's not going to help her, and that maybe he finally gives in and he learns something at the end. But I don't think that's what's going on in this gospel story. Rather, it's Jesus is using this moment, this experience, as a teachable moment for the disciples in the call to conversion. Conversion both in strengthening the faith of the woman coming to ask for help, but also, and perhaps more so, challenging the commonly held beliefs that the apostles held. So this Canaanite woman comes. She comes to the Jewish Messiah, she's not a Jew, and appeals to him for help. Now, it was thought among many of the Jews that salvation, the Messiah, was for them to save them, the Jewish people, and only the Jewish people. And it's likely that most of the disciples held this view as well. So that what Jesus is doing in this story, the things he says to her, is simply he's naming the commonly held beliefs of the apostles, to sort of state what they're already thinking and then letting them see how this plays out. So using it as a teachable moment to challenge, to convert the commonly held beliefs. She comes, she appeals to him, and the disciples already are like, send her away. You want us to send her away? She's just bothering us. And he replies, almost finishing their thought or speaking into their thoughts, this commonly held belief. I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Yeah, that's right, the disciples think. Yes, that's why they want to send her away. He's not for her, so let's send her away. And Jesus is saying what they're already thinking. And then he goes on and voices again what the disciples are thinking, their belief assumption. She persists. Says it's not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs. Sometimes how they refer to non-Jews. They're not one of us. We're the children of God. They're like dogs. And yet, she then replies that knowing that she, like all of us sinners, are not worthy. And yet, she boldly says, please, Lord, even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters. And so Jesus is showing to them how great, how strong her faith is. How this non-Jew even has more faith than many of the Jews. Because if you go back and read, just shortly before this, Jesus had another encounter with the Pharisees, who clearly do not have faith in who Jesus is. And now here's this woman, not a Jew, not an educated Pharisee, who has even greater faith. O woman, how great is your faith? Let it be done to you as you wish. The disciples are sort of perhaps stunned by this. They weren't expecting that. That maybe some of their commonly held beliefs need to change. You can see that Jesus was using this as a teachable moment to challenge some of their own convictions, their commonly held beliefs. Not all of our commonly held beliefs are right and true. But sometimes we have commonly held beliefs that need to be challenged, that need to be disrupted, that need to change. And we have other beliefs that need to be strengthened. And we have a word for this process, brothers and sisters, and we call that process conversion. The process of conversion. We're all gathered here as people in process of being converted to Jesus Christ and his gospel. And that means that there's some beliefs, convictions that we have that the Lord desires to strengthen, to deepen within us, as with the Canaanite woman. He's using this to strengthen her faith and her belief, her coaxing her to continue to come closer. He's strengthening her belief that if she appeals to God and asks for mercy, he will help. And simultaneously, that there's some common beliefs, convictions we hold, and then we need to be challenged, changed, and converted, like those of the apostles. And so this process of conversion, the Lord encountering our beliefs, our convictions, and challenging and overturning some and strengthening and deepening others, this happens on both an individual level and also on a societal, cultural level. There's both convictions, assumptions, common beliefs we hold as individuals, but also as a culture. And that which is true and good and redeemable, the Lord will work and will bring that forth. And others will be purged and purified. There are commonly held beliefs in our culture and in society that are good. Things like the inalienable rights of every human person that is in our Constitution. That every person has a sacred dignity. But there's also assumptions, ideas in our culture that need to change, need to be challenged, that need yet to be converted. Ideas that exist in our culture and society today. Things like, well, I get to decide what is right and wrong, and it's whatever I think for myself. Whatever makes me feel good, whatever I want. Truth is whatever I want it to be. Which this idea has roots in the very original sin of Adam and Eve. Eating of the knowledge of good and evil over and apart from God. That I can do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want, with whomever I want. With my time, with my money, with my body. And if you try and cut on any of that freedom, then get out of my way. Or the idea that science explains everything, so we don't need God. Another assumption, idea, belief that exists in our culture and needs to be converted and changed. And many more besides. So that we, as a Christian people, are people in the process of conversion, of having some beliefs strengthened and some beliefs challenged. So how do we know then what the Lord wants to strengthen and deepen in us and what he wants to purify within us? Which convictions need to be strengthened and which needs to be challenged? Well, it goes back to being in relationship with the Lord, listening for the voice of the Lord. Last week, I talked about, for those who are here, the listening to the voice of the Lord. You may recall, for those who are here. We talked about immersing ourselves in the Christian tradition and paying attention to the voice of the Lord within us by being formed, by knowing what the church teaches, by knowing his word in the scriptures, by spending time in prayer, going to Mass, and paying attention to the fruits of the Spirit and that which persists over time. That if we continue to have a life of active prayer, that's where conversion happens. Encounter with the Lord in conversation, with his word, in gathering as a people, in prayer, in hearing his word proclaimed, in receiving his body and blood. All of these things work on us, both as individuals and as we gather as church. It's that active conversation with the Lord in prayer where conversion happens. We're more than just a community club, more than just a place to do a ritual, and more than just a center of social services. But we're in a place of a community that encounters the living Lord. It's in conversation with the living Lord. And it's only in participating in that active conversation, the Lord's voice speaking to us as individuals and as community, that conversion happens. So let us come to the Lord like the Canaanite woman. Let us walk with the Lord like the apostles, to be a people to be converted, a community of people being converted to Christ. Because this is what it means to live as church. Amen.